Welcome, Internet Capitalists, to episode 18 of Internet Capital. We have some incredibly cool stuff to lead off the show with today. First, my Indiana Hoosiers are 4-0. They're going to get votes this week. Solidly in the bowl projections. Big game. They passed another test. Leading scoring team in the country. Have Maryland next week, and you'll be here for that. So we're excited about that.
Yep, 100%. I think just a quick note on that. I want to jump in. First of all, the offense looks great. Offense looks fantastic, very crisp. But the competition, besides the UCLA game, hasn't been great, but nonetheless, no let up. And actually, the UCLA team that we destroyed kept it pretty close with LSU over this previous weekend. So I think, prediction, Indiana cracks the top 25 going into the Maryland game next week. We'll see.
Oh, wow. So we'll know tomorrow at noon when that comes out, right?
Yep. Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
All right. That's awesome. Hey, second thing, I want to give a shout out to the Zero Land guys. You know, we're not getting paid by these guys or anything, but I want to give a shout out to them. Their token has basically risen about 200% in the past 7 days. I don't know what they're doing. There's some buyback. There's some strategy going on, but it's now back to somewhere close to where it was when it launched, which in what's been a very deflating summer, it's pretty special that they managed to, get it back up to the about where the launch was at. So kudos to those guys for doing that.
Yeah, maybe the story is that the zero token is a global macroeconomic asset that is benefiting from the reduced cost of capital from the Federal Reserve reducing interest rates.
Well, it could be Tether, USDC, Bitcoin, and Zero. Do you think that could possibly be it? Yes, the blue chips, the big four. It's not the Magnificent Seven. It's the big four. Yeah, yep. I'm thinking that's probably not right, but I do appreciate that thought, Benjo. That's interesting.
Hey, you never know. You never know.
Never know.
Shout out Zero Land. I actually went to an event last night. It's a gala, so it was very formal, black tie, and I actually wore my Zero Land socks to the event. Great socks. If you're looking for some socks, check out the Zero Land socks. They're not unisocks. You know what unisocks are, by the way, Tato? This is like early. I wasn't around in crypto for whenever these launched. You know what those are?
Did Uniswap make socks?
Yeah, and I believe that they had like a corresponding token. I'm not sure if it was an NFT or not, but on the blockchain. And then like the price of these unisocks like skyrocketed basically. And I don't know the whole story, but you can look them up. So if you want to buy unisocks, you can buy unisocks.
Well, that brings up a good point. And I think we did mention this before, but everyone out there in crypto world needs to know that we are apparel whores. You know, we only give shout outs, like really good shout outs, if you give us free t-shirts. You don't have to pay us to give shout outs, but we need free gear.
Free gear. Completely transparent. We're not paid chills, paid KOLs. We are perhaps paid in the form of gear, but we will disclose all gear. So
we're fashionistas. We're the best dressed people in crypto, judging from the videos that we saw from Singapore. And I can't believe in Singapore any of that stuff was legal.
Yeah. Singapore, they actually have pretty strict laws. I know like vaping is illegal in Singapore, among other things, and they like to keep it nice and clean. But Token 2049 did not seem quite that clean. So if you were there, I hope you had fun, but I'm not sure what was going on there. And
I hope you take your antibiotics.
Yeah. It looked a little messy, but all right. I think that's a good intro. Anything you wanna hit?
Well, the last thing's the biggest news. Biggest news.
Yeah. You wanted to hit that first.
Yeah, biggest news of the day is last week we interviewed the founder of Mode Network, James, and lots of really good stuff about his path to Mode, the super chain, which, we always say this, we're bulls on the super chain, how he grew Mode, and most importantly, their AI-Fi initiative and how they're going to do governance and some other alpha that'll come out. But look for some videos on the Mode Network Twitter this week. And hopefully we'll have the editing done of the entire interview, and it'll come out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, something like that before our next episode of The Big Show. So that was really exciting to talk to him. Super guy. They're doing some really good stuff on Mode Network.
Yeah, 100%. I second that. I would say also that James is the type of guy that you want in crypto, like a very accomplished guy, had startups in fintech before, very thoughtful, very well spoken. And that's more the type of leaders that we need in the space. And the second thing, he got me super bullish on Mode. I have a hard time leaving some of these episodes and not just going and buying the tokens of the people we're talking to immediately, because I really like what Mode is doing. And I think like this AI-fi narrative, and we could go into that more, but it's at least going to catch a tailwind from people thinking that AI crypto is going to be a thing, is one. And then second, I actually think they're building some really cool stuff. But watch the episode,
Yeah.
see what he said, and super bullish in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I went into it. I am generally scared to death of AI, but all the people we've talked to, you know, James and others have been extremely. They've thought this through. They're not going to turn AI loose on the blockchain to lose all your money. There's a plan. I think they're going to execute the plan. It's a good plan. I think it's going to be beneficial overall for the community.
Yeah, and the quote that keeps coming to mind, it's like the first conversation we had with Conclave founder Justin Bibas. He said something to the effect of, uh, like, blockchain's deterministic quality is basically the solution or the panacea to like AI's pervasiveness and just infiltrating all of these systems. It's deterministic. There's rule sets, and you can bound it by the blockchain. So I think a lot of potential there for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Cool.
All right. Well, we can get started.
Yeah, let's see. I just did a system update on my Mac, so okay, it's working now. I upgraded to the new version software. So far, I like it, but I was making sure it was letting me do this here. So we're gonna start with some news stories. Let's just go into markets and macro, and then I'll pull up the charts because, of course, we got the Fed cutting interest rates by 50 basis points, and Bitcoin briefly hit 61K. I actually believe it's trading around 63.5, which we can pull up right now. But the rate cut immediately after, we didn't see much of an effect, but in the days after, for the rest of the week, super bullish. Everything was up, and actually ETH was outperforming Bitcoin, and I'm not sure about Solana, but it was performing pretty well, which I was happy about. So, any initial thoughts on the big rate cut?
Well, it seems like for 18 episodes I've been waiting for this day when they cut the rate. So they finally did it. I think it's been well received everywhere. I think it's just the beginning of rate cuts. Rates are still, at least in the 20 to 25 year perspective, pretty high. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy about that for not only crypto, but also the normal markets are all at all-time highs as well. Here in the U.S., we need to make sure we continue to have strong employment numbers. At least they can't tank, and we need to see that inflation stays under control with this rate cut, which I think it will. So I'm super bullish. And is that 2 green candles in a row? I see 2 weeks in a row with green candles.
It is. So that's a good sign. But the one thing I wanted to mention too, like, of course, the stock market is at all-time highs, but it's funny, like, so is Bitcoin. Like, unless you're comparing it to the all-time high that we hit like a few months back, which of course you could, but like historically, it's right there at the all-time high. So we're at a similar space, and I've seen a lot of kind of takes coming out saying that based on the 4-year cycle model of crypto cycles, we're right on track. And this was basically just the warm up. And you could liken it to something like this pre-pump over here that we've gotten in the past, and we're going to have another leg up. So we'll see. The one thing I will note is that the 50 bips cut was more aggressive than some people thought. I think 25 to 50 was a consensus. But it does reveal that the Fed may see some problems in the labor market that people aren't seeing right now. So it's something to keep your eye on. And I'm actually not sure how much that impacts crypto markets specifically, because I think crypto markets do more so respond to like liquidity and the easiness or cost of money in the system rather than like underlying fundamentals of the economy. But that is something to note also.
Yep. And Ben, on that same note, and I'm going to take the liquidity spin. I read this week that there is now some over $1 trillion in what previously were higher yielding money market funds. Maybe trillion's too high, but hundreds of billions. And that is a massive lake of liquidity waiting to go somewhere to get yield as those money market rates kind of dry up. So that's independent of rates. That's another pool of money that has to go somewhere. Clearly it's not all going to go into crypto, but some of it will. And again, provide a nice tailwind. Things are setting up very well, very well.
100%. Yeah, just generally, it's funny. Also, last note here, I'll move on to Ethereum though, but Bitcoin is up, let's see, 4.88% for the people listening on the week to 62,792 as we record. But the funny thing I was going to say is that the sentiment was terrible like a week and a half ago. And then we just get a rate cut in like a 10% move on some of the majors, and everyone just changes their mind. It's just funny. Yep. People just respond to the prices. Okay. I'm not sure why the bars are looking like this. Let's see. Let's do this. That's better. Okay. Ethereum, same thing. Strong move, but on the week we're up 11%. So it did in fact outperform Bitcoin. We're up to 2,571 United States dollars, and we had a pretty strong move, kind of matching this bottom here. So, I mean, it seems like a pretty logical spot to put in a bottom if we get that, but I like what I saw from Ethereum. I'm sure you're pretty happy about this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been thinking a lot about Bitcoin. Is it Peter? What's Peter Schiff's? Is that the gold bug guy? Yeah. Thinking a lot about him and his comments and where ETH stands and how there's this humongous comparison. Because they're the crypto main things, the humongous comparison between Bitcoin and ETH. But it occurred to me, the Bitcoin maxis are, talking trash on ETH as they always do. Let's wait 4 years or 5 years because that's the head start that Bitcoin has on ETH and see where they're at. We're not comparing apples to apples here. So I'm still hyper bullish on ETH. I think it is the long-term chain, store of value, settlement layer, whatever, of finance. And I'm seeing more and more adults building out great technology, not only for retail, but also for the business applications of this. So, yeah, I like it when my bags get bigger. So, yeah, green candle, good.
Yeah, it's funny. You keep bringing up this adults point. You like the adults point. You don't like the I wouldn't even say it's that. I think it's a certain mindset that people come into it with. Like, and I think adults, generally speaking, will have like more of this fundamental mindset, and they're more of the attitude that you are. But it's just funny that you keep bringing that up. You like that saying a lot.
I did. Well, here's the deal. The video of what the crap going on in Singapore is great. If I want to see that, I'm going to go to the bar in Kirkwood and see college kids doing that. I'm not going to give, let's call it like it is. The older people have the money. The younger people want the money. Eventually, the older people aren't going to give the crazy younger people the money. So the adults are going to get the money, and they're going to do good stuff with it, and that's good. Now, that's not to say that young people can't be adults and can't do good things. They absolutely can. I don't want a whole bunch of hate on my stream about that. But the crazy subset of nutty things happening isn't the look that crypto needs in the short or long term to get where it needs to go more quickly. I think those people will largely get filtered out, and we'll see.
That's fair. I will also say, though, that the young people bring the innovation. Like, Vitalik was like 20 whenever he created Ethereum. Without these interesting ideas and people doing new things that aren't expected and are less conservative, then you don't get the dynamism of the space that you need for it to advance. So I think that's a dualistic nature. And I would say it has been skewed so far in a lot of instances, especially whenever it gets very manic in the markets. It's a lot of young people just gambling, basically. So balancing it out with some more adults, some managerial types that are focused on business development and not just trying crazy new things is good. But I just want to say you need the balance 100%. And it goes back
absolutely.
Yeah, you can go.
You didn't see Vitalik at that party, though, did you?
I did not, but I'm just
But he
saying
has a girlfriend now.
that's
He
why
has a girlfriend now.
you're saying adults. It's more of like a degenerate. You're more like
Yes.
you're using the term
Yes.
like degenerate versus responsible person focused on like building stuff.
Bingo.
Yeah,
That's exactly it.
degenerates versus builders, basically.
Oh, all right. There we go. I've learned something today. Yeah,
There
we
we
don't
go.
need more degenerates. We need responsible people
I like
at
that.
any
Okay.
age. And I like
Any
young
age.
people, young, responsible people, because they have more energy, they have more ideas, they're willing to take more risks. So I am all for responsible young people being in this industry.
All right, I like it. Just wanted to clarify
All
your
right.
stance, not get you
Yes,
canceled.
I didn't know. I didn't know the words. I didn't know the syntax, the nomenclature, the vocabulary. I'm still learning.
That's fair. That is fair. Okay, well that's cool. That's
Yeah.
we'll end off markets on that. I don't really have anything else to say, but I remain long term bullish and now fairly bullish in the short term. I think the election will tell us a lot, and yeah, it'll be an interesting next couple months. But feeling better in the markets for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's see. Which one of these do we want to go into? These are just a few news stories from earlier this week. I'll just read a few off right here. So the first one
All
is
right.
MicroStrategy announces $700 million private offering for debt buyback and Bitcoin acquisition. So Saylor is crazy. He is still buying more Bitcoin. That's basically the bottom line there. And I think this was only the first news of the week. Later in the week, he also announced that he was, let's see. Yes, he is raising $1 billion in addition to this to buy more Bitcoin. So
So let me ask this: how does is this? This is classic. He's just raising money. He has to pay back some interest on this, which I assume he does by just slowly selling Bitcoin positions or using the money from his existing company to pay the debt and betting on Bitcoin to go up, right? Because there's no revenue generated by the Bitcoin he holds. It's just an
yeah,
appreciation play, right?
pretty much. Pretty
Yeah.
much. It's just like a leveraged Bitcoin product. I don't even think the company like makes much of like any money anymore. They just are a Bitcoin holding company basically. It's like a financial product. People buy it as like Bitcoin beta essentially.
Gotcha. I did see this week that he is predicting a 20-year Bitcoin price of something. Let's see if I get this right, like 14 million or
Nice.
15 million. Does that sound reasonable for him?
Yeah, I think he said something like that. That was like a couple months back at some conference, maybe at the Bitcoin Nashville conference or something.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that. But
All right.
yeah, I like the bullishness. I mean, at the end of the day, like a lot of financial assets are about like it's a market. It's like what are people willing to buy and sell for it. So unless you say the really high number, then it's just out of the question. So just like say the number, and then you got to
Yeah.
respect it.
Yeah. If someone
So
finds it 20 years from now, then they can look back and say you were right or wrong, which I doubt will
yeah,
happen.
yeah. But that's funny. Yeah, just Sailor buying more Bitcoin basically.
Yeah.
Next is Revolut to launch its own crypto stablecoin. So Revolut is a big fintech firm. I don't even know if they operate in the United States, but they're very big overseas in Europe, I believe. But this move places Revolut alongside other major financial firms like PayPal, who has their own stablecoin, which has actually seen very strong growth. So the stablecoin market as a whole is over $170 billion, and that's been actually one of the strengths in the crypto market over the last few months, giving people some reason to be optimistic. But Revolut is joining this, and I think this is going to be like just emblematic of the larger trend that we're going to see over the coming months and years is more fintech specifically first joining the stablecoin game, and really interesting to see them do it. Any thoughts on this one?
Well, not on Revolut specifically, but Ben, I think this came out after your Wednesday newsletter. I believe now, this is crazy stat, that Tether is now the largest holder in the world of U.S. Treasuries, surpassing China and Japan and other large European countries. So essentially, they've in the period of 2 years gone from nothing to the world's largest holder of treasuries. And I wonder, people are always worried about, well, what's China going to do when if and when they dump all the U.S. treasuries? That dynamic just changed. Clearly, China and Japan are important, but now someone else that is not a nation state is the largest holder. and how will that be affected? It's going to be something interesting to play out.
Interesting. Yeah, that they're the largest.
I I didn't do much research. I saw that statement from what I thought was a credible source.
Okay, I'll look.
Um,
They're definitely up
Fact
there. I
check me.
agree with you. I'll fact check you. I'll try to find it. Whatever. But the point
They
holds.
were four. They were number four. I
Okay.
knew that. Yeah.
The point holds, and yeah, I think you're right. It's interesting because you see this de-dollarization push from like BRICS. So you got like China, you got Russia, you got some of the Middle Eastern countries there want to move away from the dollar as the United States government has weaponized it. For instance, with the Russia-Ukraine war, freezing
Mm-hmm.
the Russian deposits of US dollars in banks. So there's this move, and we need someone to kind of fill that gap. And this goes back to the point that there's absolutely no reason for hostile regulation, specifically of stablecoins within the United States, because it just helps the dollar's dominance. Like
Yeah.
people view crypto as anti-dollar, anti-America because these hardcore libertarian Bitcoiners in the early days were like, we're going to use Bitcoin as money. The dollar sucks. Like, okay, like that's a very black and white take, not very nuanced. But actually, this could be the dollar's biggest tailwind over the coming years as we print more and more money and get less and less responsible with our fiscal policy. So I think it's a good thing, and it's just good to reinforce that and get it into like the public mind that stablecoins and crypto are good for the dollar actually. So just wanted to put that out there.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, cool. So next up, Circle partners with Sony to introduce USDC on Sonium, and Sonium is Sony's Ethereum Layer 2, which is a part of the superchain. So I'm sure you're gonna like this
Yes.
one, Tato. Any thoughts? I think this is pretty cool. This is just an instance of a big crypto company, Circle, one of the biggest in the United States, partnering up with other big multinational companies. So super cool. It's really cool to see this kind of business development on a big level. And last thing is that at the end of this article, it actually said Sony aims to explore integrating USDC into its broader payment ecosystem, potentially benefiting businesses across the Sony group, which is really cool. Any
Mm-hmm.
thoughts?
So the thing that's hidden in that is also Sony is one of the big three in gaming with the PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not that kind of gamer, but I believe
It's
that's
big.
true.
Yeah.
And this is the natural way, not just USDC, but crypto, NFTs, things like that, are the natural way to expand those games and things you acquire in games, not only to other games, but to your kind of private portfolio on your Sonium blockchain. So again, the super chain is finding ways to engage with real people. Coinbase was one way, and Base Chain, and now Sonium is another way. So I love it, absolutely love it.
I'm smiling because once upon a time, not that many episodes ago, you were not bullish on crypto gaming because you had this conception, I think, from Twitter of like all these hyped up like on blockchain games that weren't very performant. And it's understandable. It seems like
Yeah.
people are speculating on the tokens. They just want to make money from the narrative. I get it. But it is, as you mentioned, a very natural use case for crypto. And if you just imagine like these large companies with existing great games and great infrastructure, and they push crypto features to all these people, it could enable very cool things like being able to like port experience points, gear, whatever it is, across game versions, the different ecosystems, like introduce a certain type of financial market so that people who want to like level up faster can like pay this, and then the people who are selling like maybe their levels that they've earned get a cut of that in addition to the company. So it just unlocks all types of cool stuff.
I'm willing to be proven wrong. I'm willing to be proven wrong. And everything you said seems like a way better idea than those crappy games I had to play in Linear Park to earn those stupid LXP points, which I'm guessing are going to be worth pennies and or a waste of my time. That was one of the big reasons.
Yeah, fair.
So I'm happy to see this. I love it. And Ben, let's talk a little bit more. What if Microsoft says, well, we're gonna get with Sony, and there's another one, PlayStation, Nintendo, I guess would be the other one. Is there a third?
Well, you mean in Sony's ecosystem?
No. If there was for example, an NFT standard, so you could like migrate
Yeah.
NFTs you got in PlayStation to Xbox,
Oh yeah,
things like
that'd be
that.
cool. That's Microsoft. Microsoft owns
Yeah,
Xbox, so it'd be like a little partnership there. And that's like
yeah,
that would increase the pie for everyone. And like there's definitely ways to architect this so that the companies, like of course they have a interest in making money. They have an obligation to their shareholders to make money. There's a way to architect this so you just unlock more value for users and then there's just more commerce occurring within these
hmm
ecosystems and it's just net beneficial for everyone. And it's just super cool. So for sure.
yeah, yeah. Awesome, love it. And it's, you know what, people talk about real world assets. The stuff we're talking about is real world. I mean, you never would have said that, the Xbox or the PlayStation 5 or whatever is not real world, right? I
Mhm.
know it's real world. We use it. It's a physical device. Yeah, I know it's all online and that stuff, but this is just a way to connect this abstract crypto and blockchain idea to things that are extremely commonplace in the real world. And it's
Yeah.
it's just great stuff.
100%. Yeah, just super cool, super interesting use cases and a lot to build on there. So interesting to see what like Sony actually, and I know they've launched the test net for Sonium, I'm pretty sure, but
hmm
I just can't wait to see like what products they push because they're going to be more polished on the front end and have a wider
Yeah,
distribution than some of these crypto gaming projects because it's Sony. So
right.
excited about that. Stay tuned. We'll keep you guys updated with that, but pretty interesting. I think
Absolutely.
this is the next push into like crypto gaming, crypto entertainment, which is like a narrative that everyone just like left because nothing was happening.
Yep.
But all right, next up this week, your favorite topic that we've been talking about is Trump's World Liberty Financial. So they revealed that they will have a token, World Liberty Finance, and they're distributing this token in a public sale. But it's not really public. You have to be an accredited investor, and you have to go through a bunch
Yep.
of checks because otherwise, the SEC would have not liked that. Gary Gensler would have been on Trump immediately. But according to this article, this plan allocates 20% of the tokens to the founding team and 63% for investors. I'm not sure where the remainder was, probably for emissions or something similar.
Probably for
And
Donald.
yeah, maybe. And then the last thing is that the token would be locked for an indeterminate period of time. I think this is to keep like the regulators off Trump's ass until and if he gets elected. Because if he gets elected, he'll just say it's fine. It's his thing. So yeah. So and apparently, I actually don't know what happened with this. It was supposed to go live this previous Monday, about 6 days ago. So that would have been the 16th. I'm not sure if it's usable at the moment. But while I look for that, any more thoughts on this? I'm not sure. Any thoughts on the token? I guess we talked about the other aspects.
Well, I mean, it seems to me almost shockingly they're being very responsible about what they're doing.
Hmm.
I think it's probably going to do very well. There's going to be a lot of people that buy it. I don't know what it does, but it, it seems reasonable to me. And the other part about this that kind of makes it like I think you're not going to get scammed is it's not the World Financial Trump token or whatever it's called. It's Aave. It's Aave
Hmm.
running this for them.
It's a
Which
wrapper on top of Aave, basically.
right,
Yeah, it's
right,
just like an easy way to. I think what it is mostly is like it's nothing like crazy innovative. It's just like a way to get people who like Trump to like use this crypto
yeah,
product. So like if you like Trump and you like crypto or you're interested in crypto, you'd be like, oh, I'll use Trump's thing. Like why not? Like I don't think that's what they're trying to do, and it seems that they actually do have a solid team behind them. Also, so I was like, that was my you would think, who knows what the state that America's in, but that like a presidential candidate who's doing this type of thing is going to be very careful and do it right. That's why I was of the opinion, like, no, it's not a
right,
scam because like that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
right.
Um, but so far it looks fine. It'll be interesting to see how it does in the coming weeks. But that's the update. We'll
Yeah,
keep you guys updated. Hopefully that goes well because if this thing gets hacked or something, like crypto's just done for. That's so much. If this thing gets hacked or something, and then the Dems win the White House and have control of the regulatory agencies, crypto is done for the next 4 years. Like it's actually like this is, in my opinion, the biggest attack vector for crypto at the moment.
yeah. It seems like it.
So yeah, it's so we'll see. A little scary, but nonetheless, that is going on. Uh, let's see. Last thing, Ton and the Curve Finance team up on a stablecoin swap initiative. I didn't look into this too closely, but I'll read the description here. So the Ton Foundation has teamed up with the Curve Finance Dex to launch a stable swap project on Ton blockchain. Okay, so it uses Curve's constant function market maker technology, which optimizes swaps between stable assets or assets that are pegged to the same underlying value. So it's basically Curve on the Ton network. So the project will be developed by an independent team selected through a public process, with Curve's founder Michael Igorov acting as an advisor. So that's kind of cool. Ton after having a difficult kind of couple weeks there because of their founder getting arrested and then the blockchain going down a few times. Looks like they have something positive to look forward to. Any thoughts on that one?
Is the founder out of jail?
I think he is. I think he's out. Yeah.
Okay.
He also he's the founder of Telegram, which is like Ton was originally created within Telegram, but then kind of spun off. So, but yeah, they're very closely linked still.
Yeah. Well, I'm more interested in what what Europe and France does with him, rather than the stablecoin thing. And I guess we'll find out more about that in the future.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't have any other thoughts on that one. But all right, we can move on.
Yeah. Hey, Ben, I'm going to interject something that's what I want to say. Oh, let's talk about this first. Go ahead.
All right, we can bring it up real quick. This was big news in the second half of the week, and I swear I saw news like going back and forth on this. Like first, this had already happened, and then it got revoked and overturned, and then it happened again. So, nonetheless, the news is that the SEC has greenlit the listing and trading of options for BlackRock's spot Bitcoin ETF. And as we mentioned previously, this basically completes the ETF market because it enables basically different types of hedging and like the full suite of financial operations and financial tools that big institutions use to trade ETFs. That is options. So that's really good news. And hopefully this will lead to an increase in volume for the BlackRock ETF and all the Bitcoin ETFs eventually. It also paves the way for options on the Ethereum ETF. So that's pretty cool.
Very cool. And Ben, I think what happened was BlackRock withdrew the application and resubmitted it, and then it got approved. Something like that is what happened.
Gotcha. Yeah, they probably needed to make some amendments, but yeah, very interesting. The one thing that I will say is that it's interesting. The SEC goes back and forth. I saw also this week that they sued like a bunch of people, and then I don't think they are happy about doing this type of thing, like giving the crypto space a victory. But we still get progress. Like, I think there's only so much that they can do in terms of like what's legal and what the courts have ruled and just the state of the industry. So they have to give us some wins. But I just see them go into hundreds of people and crypto companies and stuff, and then they give us this product. So yeah. Any thoughts?
Well, maybe there's a couple thoughts. Maybe there's disagreement within the different parts of the SEC. Maybe they think that I'm not it's like Gary's like, I'm not taking on BlackRock again. I'm not going to they're going to sue that we see no, let's just give them their win. Let's take these lower profile folks and try to drive home precedent with them. However, having said all of that, the Supreme Court case that basically took away agencies' ability to regulate too far outside the scope of what Congress had given them authority to do probably makes it even harder in some of these cases because their rules aren't arbitrarily decided or deemed to be correct anymore. So, I don't think it's getting any easier for them.
No, and actually, I don't know if you saw this, but Gary has to testify in front of the House Financial Services Committee this Tuesday. And apparently, I believe that like his stance on airdrops is going to be a central like point of discussion here. And then the other thing is that one of the main dissenters within the SEC, Hester Peirce, who's been like very friendly crypto. She's great. She goes to crypto conferences, understands the space, its potential for innovation, is also going to be there to give her opinion on multiple instances of Gary Gensler's decisions regarding crypto. So this is happening on Tuesday. And I'm pretty excited about this because I think Gary is going to be squirming a bit because he's going to be under some significant scrutiny from people in the House committee and also from Hester Peirce within his organization. So
Yeah,
this is definitely something to keep your eye on.
well, I will absolutely. It's Tuesday.
Yeah, if I can, I'll watch it because I think
Yeah,
it'll be great. But yeah, we'll see. This is one of the things I don't understand too. His stance on airdrops specifically, like what argument is there that a U.S. citizen shouldn't be able to claim an airdrop? Like, why are they blocking people from free money? Which one, officially, the IRS can tax? It's literally
right.
it's keeping revenue from the U.S. government. One, how is there any danger for the consumer? They're getting free money. I don't understand where that's coming from at all.
I mean, it seems analogous to people that have stock options that they exercise. What's the difference? It's nothing until you claim it, and then it's something and you get taxed.
It's free money. Yeah, there's
it's
no.
freaking. I mean, what I just described is the American way, right?
It grows the U.S. economy. There's literally
Yeah,
money being minted in the digital ether that can be converted into U.S. dollars and spent within the U.S. economy.
right,
Like
right.
it's just this is just like one of the most blatant indications that like the SEC has been so political over the last 4 years. It's not really about protecting U.S. consumers. It's about painting a narrative of the crypto industry for political reasons. It seems like Gary just is really interested in career progression and wants to move up, maybe get a role within somewhere else in the government. I forget what.
He's not going to be the Secretary of the Treasury. That would be a
I
disaster.
know. I know. I think there was other roles posed though, but that's what he's getting for, and he really just wants to pander to his bosses, the Elizabeth Warrens and others who really run the Democratic Congress. So it is what it is, but it's just frustrating, and I'm happy to see Gary hopefully being brought to justice in front of Congress here. So
Yes, it'll be good. Hey, so we've been talking a lot about this AI narrative for the past couple of weeks, and actually, your mother brought up a topic that she saw online, which harkens back to my youth, but it also points to our energy infrastructure and how much is being used for AI and I guess Bitcoin and things like that. But the company that owns 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania, which is the site of its 1979 partial meltdown of one of their reactors, announced this week that they are restarting the other reactor, which has been mothballed for 5 years. They're restarting it at a cost of approximately $1.5 billion solely to supply something like 800 megawatts or 800, a lot, solely to Microsoft's AI data centers.
wow.
So it's crazy to think that, one, we're restarting nuclear reactors for this purpose.
Yeah.
The second thing that's crazy to think of, this reactor was built in the 70s, meaning it's an early 70s, late 60s design. It's probably one of the earlier generations. So we are relying now on 50-year-old technology designs, et cetera, to provide power to the bleeding edge of technology. And it disappoints me because I know there's better nuclear solutions out there now. I've seen them, I've read about them, but we're having to fall back on this. But in bigger picture, it points to what or how much energy these technologies and computing needs.
Yeah, 100%. That's super interesting. I didn't know that was happening.
Yep.
But yeah, it's crazy because AI, obviously, with its recent advances, has gotten like the lion's share of attention in terms of technology that the public is paying attention to. And the biggest beneficiary so far has been it's like the infrastructure place. It's like, well, we need a lot of chips, we need a lot of energy, and from on the chip side, like Nvidia obviously benefited from that a lot. And now it could be that the biggest beneficiaries next are these energy kind of plays. So that's interesting for sure. The next thing I would ask you, you know more about this than me, but I'm of the understanding that like there's new generations of nuclear reactors, like Gen 4 nuclear reactors, that are basically fail safe. They're like proven,
Yep.
like if they fail, then it's basically completely fine. So like I haven't been paying close attention. What is the resistance to like building these in the United States? Like, are we doing this? And if so, why not? Are people just scared? Like, why aren't we taking a rational approach to this? And do you think like the need for energy and the focus of kind of onshoring this core infrastructure for the future of technology with AI in the United States is like creating a change?
Yeah, so there are definitely significantly more fail-safe versions that don't require continuous pumping of water to keep things cool, that can't reach critical mass, but can still provide a lot of energy. I think in the U.S., the biggest issue is disposal of the uranium once it's, or plutonium or whatever it is, once it's depleted. Um, Yucca Mountain was something I think in the 80s and 90s that was talked about. I don't think that ever fully, went live. Bill Gates Foundation was a huge funder of next generation nuclear reactors, had some ready to go. Then Fukushima happened, which set things back a long, long way. They didn't plan adequately for a natural disaster. I think it partially melted down and bad stuff happened. Bad stuff happened there. Chernobyl obviously is in everybody's mind. But having said that, those are extremely old generations of nuclear reactors. Those are 50-ish year old designs. The new designs, I think, are much better, much easier to handle in terms of the uranium and how it is placed. In fact, some of them you're just stacking like graphite-coated uranium balls on top of each other, things like that. So I think, I hope, I'm a believer in nuclear power. I grew up with it. I thought it was very cool. I think it's generally eco-friendly. I think we can solve the problems on how to store the depleted uranium for long term, and we will. But it just will take, it's like a 7-year approval process for new plants to get built. And that has to be faster. Now, this is funny that you brought up the on-sourcing of power, bringing it onshore of power and all this. And what it popped in my mind was a Dyson sphere. You know what that is?
Yeah.
So imagine if compute, AI, and the energy needed for that and crypto and whatever's next got to be so great that we needed to start constructing a Dyson sphere around our sun to essentially provide us with infinite, free, clean energy. And this may be, Ben, we may be living in the 5-year time period that the need for that amount of energy first became evident, which is sort of a stretch, but a cool thing.
Yeah, no, 100%. That also brings to mind a couple things. So one is that I don't know if this is possible, but it's like I heard someone say this, I forget who, and I don't know if it makes sense from an energy loss perspective, but putting a bunch of nuclear reactors on the moon. Like, could we do that?
Yeah, I think we could. I think people would like it once the spaceship didn't blow up in Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah,
that's where you'd have all the issues. But nuclear reactors have been launched before.
Yeah.
100% have been launched before, and they were small and self-contained. And on the moon, I think you're going to use solar or nuclear. There's no wind, there's no geothermal. You're not going to ship coal up there or natural gas, so that's your choices.
That'd be cool if like we did over the next like 10, 20 years, just turn the moon into like the Earth's powerhouse. Like if we could somehow agree for the whole world to do that. And it looks like the geopolitical landscape is a bit disconnected, and hopefully like the leaders of the great countries, like I'm pretty confident that if we could figure out as humans to how to like coordinate and get along, that we could do that, because like we're so fragmented, there's all this conflict and we still get things done. And there's like people like Elon who works on these things. And it's possible. But yeah, the other thing too is like two things. One is that nuclear seems to be a nonpartisan issue. Like there's no clear political boundary for people who are for or against nuclear, in my opinion, because like the Republicans for sure have been like, they're very pro fossil fuels. They're like, we need fossil fuels, and they're right about that to get us like, we have to wean off them eventually, but we need them now. And then like traditionally the Democrats would be characterized as being more like eco-conscious. They don't want fossil fuels because they're bad for the environment, but of course we need them, and that's a split. But then when it comes to nuclear, you don't see the Republicans out here doing like big nuclear initiatives. Maybe they're pro-nuclear, but it's not a main talking point. And I don't even know what the Democrats' stance is. So it seems like an open area, and it's more like the technical people need to like convey to everyone that this is the direction we need to go and that they actually are safe. Because I think a lot of people in your generation and stuff, there was like the Cold War, there's just a lot of negative connotations associated with these meltdowns, with the negative potential there. So that was interesting to me. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's certainly back when 3 Mile Island was happening, and I was too young really to have much of a political bent. There was a lot of talk about it.
Yeah.
And I think both sides coalesced around, well, we're going to regulate the shit out of this. And if someone can make it through the process, I guess they can start it. But it's so expensive and takes so long, it's not cost effective.
Yeah.
But evidently, it's cost effective now.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, I guess the thing is now, maybe it is to the point where like we know the science is good enough, they work, like it's time to take down some of the regulations. Like we need to move because that's the priority shift, and maybe that's the discussion we need to have. I was listening to Elon on a recent panel he did it in the All In Summit. The All In podcast is like one of the, you know, it's like one of the biggest podcasts in tech. It's for Silicon Valley entrepreneur guys who have this big podcast. They talk about the economy, tech, all this type of stuff, and they're venture and private equity investors. But he was on their summit basically saying that one of the reasons he moved from California to Texas, among others, is that like the amount of time that he built like the Gigafactory in Texas, which is like a couple of years, was the amount of time it would have just taken to get approved in California. And I think this is like one of the differences between the new age Republicans and the Democrats, is that like the kind of new age Republicans are in favor of getting rid of a bunch of regulations in places. And I think that is one maybe key difference there. And he talks about the point, it's like we have this very good way to like enact new laws. It's very hard because we have these checks and balances, and like it takes a while, which it's good. You don't want just the government to be able to make laws, but we have literally no process for removing them. So they just stack up and stack up. Right. And we're at the point in our country where there's so many that you don't even know if you're complying with the rules. Like he said, he got fined $150,000 for pouring water on the launch site to like cool off some rocket launching mechanism, for pouring water on it in Texas because it's like against some environmental
in Texas
regulation.
Or in California?
In Texas.
Oh.
It was from a federal agency. It was like a federal.
Gotcha.
Yeah, very strange.
Well, yeah, because they're in a wetland. They're in a wetland there or something.
Something like that. Yeah, that must be it. But yeah, that's basically was his point, and maybe that's a point of contention. And we probably just, it's time to decrease the regulation here because we need to innovate, and technology is at that point. So maybe that's the discussion.
Well, I think, Ben, one thing that's happening, and we talk about this every week, people leave California because they do like crazy regulation on everything there, and they're going to places like, you know, Texas and Nevada and Arizona. And I'm sure other places too, or people just don't move there. So, you know, they're going to have to figure that out on the state level. Now, the federal level, I don't have a real good answer for.
Yeah, 100%. I think we also need to get over, last thing on this in regard to Elon too, this just came up. It seems like Elon gets a lot of flack like within like the left currently because they don't like his like current political views at the moment, when really like he's done the most for certain values that the left has had, like for the environment, for all these types of things. And he's like the one guy who's trying to like, who can actually move the needle on these very core like issues in the real world, like renewable energy and all of this stuff. And like offering internet access through Starlink to people in rural America. And he's doing all these great things, but they just don't like him, so that they try to make it difficult for him and go after him, which I think is part of the problem. It seems like there's like this, like, it's like the Trump derangement syndrome thing that people talk about. I think that's actually happening with Elon, which people started talking about, where they just hate him because they don't like what he says, when he's like, we need to make it as easy as possible for this guy to do whatever he wants. Like, I'm sorry, we do. How, you know, like he's moving the needle on all these big issues. And I do think he's spending a little too much time on like Twitter, and he's his own guy though. I mean, like he can do what he wants, but I'm saying like let him go. He's moving the needle on these issues.
Yeah, I think I have to like scroll past his Twitter stuff sometimes because he
It's
goes a
fair.
little too far. But and on this note, we didn't talk about this, but last week SpaceX put men and women, it was 2 men, 2 women, further away from Earth than they've been in 50 years
Yeah.
and did the first spacewalk in 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
For like, I don't know, this dude paid $200 million or something to make this happen. But it's like, okay, well, we're just going to shoot them up there. It's no big deal. And I think they're back. They returned safely. He's done that. You know, the Starlink thing. I don't really care about internet to rural America, but you know what I asked about last week for Starlink? I said, hey, how much does Starlink cost? Because I want to watch college football games while I'm at tailgates, and my cell phone server doesn't work well enough. You know, that's a little thing. Obviously, Tesla is becoming a mainstream company and facing the typical things to growth that any car manufacturer faces. But that's what happens when you become mainstream. So I generally am with you. You know, Elon and what he says is a little crazy for me sometimes, but you know, he has the mindset. Probably he's enough of an asshole disposition as a manager to get shit done, and he's really freaking smart.
Exactly. Like you expect these guys with like the best intellects of our generation to be normal. Like, really, you think that's going to be the case? Like, just let him go. And I get like he's intruding. You don't agree with some of his political takes, but like, yeah, he's doing this stuff, and it's annoying because it's like people can have their opinions, but it's the federal government being biased. They're going after him, trying to find him and stop him. It's like that's counterintuitive for the future of the world, for the future of America. Like, this is the guy. He wants to be here. Like, stop going after him. Like, they had that like an electric car. It was something with the federal government. They were like giving out awards, and there was an event or something. They didn't invite him. He literally is the guy who made the thing happen. And then not just that, stupid. They also try to start up these programs to like provide. It's like billions of tax dollars going to try to provide internet to rural America when he already solved the problem. And then like they're looking back at the results. This was a couple of years ago. I think it was in like the Inflation Reduction Act is what they called it. It was in that bill. But they go back to check the results here now about like 4 or 5 years later. And it was like no one has access to any of these services. They've built like none of the infrastructure essentially, and it just doesn't work when the problem was already being solved and Elon already solved it. So it's like, why is this happening? I just, that's the most frustrating thing to me when they're just getting in the way of innovators. And this is exactly what's going on in the SEC, and the executive branch is just getting in the way of people trying to build stuff purely for political reasons. That's it. Like, it's actually counter to the growth and well-being of the country. So it's just, you see it everywhere, and it's dumb. Yeah. So,
well, the good news is Elon isn't going to stop. He'll keep doing his thing. And, you know, at some point we'll look back, or history, my great-grandchildren, your grandchildren will look back in their history books and it'll be like, yeah, he was kind of crazy, but he did a lot of cool shit.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I'll give people the point that he's like an a-hole on Twitter and probably tweets too much, but like, it is what it is.
Well, Steve Jobs was an asshole too.
That's true.
To all his employees, people hated him. He was an asshole, and he basically created modern computing and modern mobile devices. It's because of him. I mean, so
that's true.
It's not like I don't know. You know this about me. I don't think that you have to be nice all the time.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're trying to get stuff done.
Right, conflicts moves the needle forward. Right.
Yeah. 100%. I just want to put that out there because Elon gets a lot of hate. He's done so many good things, and so it is what it is. But hopefully, it gets easier for these innovators to build things in the coming years. But that's the last thing I had there. I'm trying to think of anything else. Anything else you wanted to hit?
No, we're approaching an hour, and our Steelers are going to be on TV here in just a few minutes. They're 2-0. They have their home opener today, so we have to get to watch them. I want to recap, though. Again, the Zero Land guys, great job. Keep it up. I'm going to pump again the Mode Network interview with James. Follow Mode Network. They're going to be putting out some shorts of that before we release the entire interview later this week. And Ben, I will see you. We'll be doing the show from tailgating at Indiana Memorial Stadium before the Maryland game next Saturday morning. So that'll be exciting.
Yeah, looking forward to it. That'll be a fun game, fun event, fun show. So yeah, this was a good one, and
very good episode.
Sounds good. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening. Subscribe to the video. Follow us on all the platforms, and yeah, we'll see you next time.
All right. See you, Internet Capitalist. Over and out.